but the night sweats were terrible. The shakes, all that. The withdrawals for me would hit after 2 hours of my last shot. It was instant.
Yeah. No, I totally remember those days. Like towards the end, I tried to cut back out of whiskey, thinking like the withdrawals would be better if I just switched to wine.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Sober Strong apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. Heavyweight tees, hoodies, and gear for the ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're part of the crew that doesn't back down. Every order fuels recovery with 10% donated to treatment facilities, because we don't just talk about it, we stand on it.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan, here with my co-host Rachel, and we have Art here joining us today for another good episode. Art, how you doing? Can you introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from and all that.
My name is Art Arguello from Northern California, capital of California, Sacramento.
Sacramento. Awesome. So that's not too far out of
Mhm.
like San Francisco, right? Bay
It's
Area.
right. It's right in the middle of the state. So an hour from San Francisco, an hour from Tahoe.
Awesome. So yeah, this show being called Rock Bottom with Ryan, we like to hear a little bit about your background story, due to like using whether it was alcohol, drugs, both, kind of maybe go into just a little bit about your upbringing and how it all started and kind of tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up where you are now.
Yes, for sure. I started drinking late. It was alcohol for me. I started drinking after high school. So I was 19 when I first took my first sip. So I started a little bit later in the game than most people. And it was always this fun and social thing for me, right? So partying and hanging out with my friends and the usual weekend binges and all that. And it was every weekend, right? There was no problem at the beginning. I think that's essentially everybody's story, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, a lot of people it's a fun thing to do. Not until the later years does it really catch up to you, like it did with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what years would you say it kicked in from like basic social drinking into like where you considered it a problem?
Right out of high school, it was 2006. I graduated high school 2005, 2006, when I was off on my own and really exploring the world outside of a structured environment like high school, right? Just exploring. That's really where it took hold of me in a fun, social setting, where I just drank socially. And it just it was nonstop after that.
Did it ever turn into like an isolation type of situation where you were drinking either like alone now or you had to do it when you first woke up?
Not until the later years. I'm now over 4 years sober.
Yeah.
July, June 8th, 2021 is
Congratulations.
my, thank you. It's
Awesome.
my sobriety date. For over 4 years now. And not until the end is really when it started to isolate me. And really, that's really where it turned extremely dark for
What
me.
was the 24-hour period like during that dark period, isolating?
Right at the end, and this was right at the peak of COVID, right? So isolated, especially here in California, we were isolated just by design of what the health departments around here, shut everybody down. And so what else is there to do than just to,
Exactly.
vibe out on what was my medicine? Yeah. What was my medicine up to that point, which is alcohol. And it was a 24-hour day for me. Would be at the end of it, I could not function without alcohol. And for me, it was whiskey at the end. It was straight whiskey. And beers were really just there, kind of just to keep my buzz going, of the hard alcohol. That was in between. That was a daily thing. So morning, wake up. I wouldn't even say wake up because I never truly slept. It was really just a
Yeah.
mild pass out throughout the night and wake up and would just come to, right? And then take a shot. It was a double shot of whiskey just to make my body feel comfortable again, just to relax throughout the night. But the night sweats were terrible. The shakes, all that. The withdrawals, for me would hit after 2 hours of my last shot. It was instant.
Yeah. No, I totally remember those days. Like towards the end, I tried to cut back out of whiskey, thinking like the withdrawals would be better if I just switched to wine. But even when I was like drinking wine, I'd be waking up in bed, like pouring a bag of wine into my throat so I could put my like contacts in, so I could
Hmm.
aim to go to the bathroom. Like it got so bad that I couldn't do any of the simple things anymore. And it was like
Yeah.
frustrating. And like even if I wanted to text somebody to like, cancel on another plan or something, I couldn't even do that until I got drunk enough.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh
Same
my
here.
gosh.
so
No,
frustrating.
wine was my drink of choice. So I was like, well, towards the end, that's all I was really drinking. I love the feeling of literally waking up on an empty stomach and the warmth that would go through you, that initial feeling. I like lived for that. That was like and I love doing it at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning because nobody would know and you're not going to need to do it again. And then that's when I would run off to the corner store and get more. So I could relate.
So what
And that was the normal. We were chasing that normal high, right?
Yeah.
exactly? What was your like were you in like relationships at the time during the dark period? Like how did it affect your relationship with your kids or your family? What was that like?
So yeah, I was married throughout my whole journey with alcohol. My separation date from my ex-wife is actually my sober date. So it kind of culminated into me separating from my ex-wife and eventually divorce.
Okay.
But she was there, from the beginning. We knew each other for 13 years, married for 10, or sorry, married for 3. And so her and I partied. We partied hard. She's an awesome mom. A great woman. I have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old that we have together. And, we co-parent very well. And she's an amazing mama. So I'm very blessed to say that now that, after the fact, I'm in a good space with her and our children.
That's good.
That's good.
And my relationship with alcohol took over my marriage. And it was the marriage we had was, now knowing who I am now, and I really had to break down my life to the bits and pieces of what it is, and I had to put it together. I look back at what our relationship was, and it was really just to hang out and have fun.
Right.
Nothing wrong with it, right? But when there is the glue of the relationship is fueled by alcohol, when everything breaks apart, the relationship really takes a hit, right? And not until I got sober that I got the clarity was when I really realized, that she wasn't really my person. She was who I coped with along my journey of really just surviving. And not until I got sober did I really figure that out. And eventually I was the one that filed for divorce because that's when things started to click with me.
Right.
And,
Right.
alcohol really took over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
So
that's
like
where you started kind of setting a boundary for yourself. You decided you knew who you were becoming, so you set that boundary for yourself. Yeah.
so did you, since you got into drinking at a, and through high school and everything, and everything culminated and you progressed into what you'd say is a unfunctioning alcoholic, it sounds like. Were there any like things that you can think back at that you were trying to numb from childhood, or like some things that were just trying to mask and hide with the drinking that you're okay with
Yes.
sharing?
Yes, I am. And thank you for asking. Not until I got sober did things really start to click. But All of my life, my kid, since I was a kid to my young adult life, I've always had crippling anxiety and I had no idea why. I grew up in a very loving family. Both my parents are still together. My dad was an alcoholic. I don't remember much of his alcoholic ways. He's sober as well. He was sober for 10 plus years and then he had a little bit of a relapse recently and he's believe 3 years sober now, but he's
Oh,
doing great and had a very lovely family, brothers, sisters, everything was all fine. For whatever reason, and I could not make sense of it, but there was something with me that made me have these episodes of
Panic attacks.
panic attacks. Yes.
I recall
And
having those.
yep. And I had flashbacks, right, of things happening to me as a kid, and I could not make sense of it aside from is like I don't know why these things are coming up for me. Not until when I got sober, I had a therapist that I reached out to through my work, my employee assistance program, and I consulted with them by a miracle because I'm very busy with work. My miracle, she contacted me and said that she had very late appointments, 8 p.m. appointments once a week. And those are rare.
yeah.
And she was able to fit me into the schedule. And I had 6 months of therapy with her. Not until I had the therapy sessions with her did the dots started connect on why I felt certain things around certain people, why I was so against going to certain places. And I can't really dive too much into it because it's still unfolding. And there is currently a case that I'm a part of that
Hmm.
involves this, but it does revolve around sexual trauma, sexual abuse. And those things are still little by little unfolding as time passes. But that was really at the core what was affecting me.
I
There you
can
go.
completely relate. I started getting these thoughts and memories coming back into my head.
Uh-huh.
Throughout my life, when I was drinking, it would come, but I would be able to drink and numb it and forget about it temporarily. But then as soon
Uh-huh.
as I got sober, all of a sudden, some of these memories started becoming more vivid. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started, when this podcast started, I started talking about it a little more. And I'm like, holy crap, this was all real. This wasn't made up, And like, then you're like, maybe this is why I am the way I am. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a scary
Yep.
thought coming to those realizations, and you can't go
Yeah.
back and do anything about it, but at the same time, you can process it now and use it to channel it into growth, which is, I assume, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same
Yeah.
thing. Same thing here. The little bits and pieces that come up, flashbacks. One, I wasn't crazy. That was the one thing that I had to really come to terms with is like, wait, this did happen, and even my therapist said those are a lot of the things that I grew up with that I had thoughts of or that I possibly experienced. Those are not by accident. Those were learned from a young age and those were taught to me by somebody and
Yeah.
somebody that took advantage of me and making sense of that, I was able to process it and still processing it now. But I'm in a good space where I have a big community around me that I'm able to tap into when I need to, and I'm very blessed to say that I can do that. And this is my first real true interview with somebody else on a camera talking about this aside from
Well,
my therapist, back in the day.
we feel very privileged and honored to have you on, seriously.
Very
So,
proud of
Thank you.
you for this too. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. Seriously.
Of course.
Seriously.
yeah.
You're helping others
And
by
it
that.
Of
does,
course.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, these are like the thing about this podcast is, we want people to open up, about traumas if they're comfortable with it. But just knowing that not only you're open up about it, sometimes it is therapeutic to talk about it. And
Mhm.
knowing that your voice is getting out there for people that probably have been holding it in for a long time. I mean, I didn't open up about it until I interviewed somebody who talked about it, a
Yeah.
girl named Avery in a previous episode. And then finally I was like, that gives me the strength to want to do it myself. And then people are going to hear you and be like, there's, because you seem like a very genuine guy, and it's like people will see that from you and be like, I can do that too,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it can go both ways where it can trigger something in people where they can actively start doing something about it. and
Yeah.
confronting these emotions, these things that are boiling up within them. And I have a pretty unique story with AA where I brought this up in AA.
Let's hear
I
about
used
it.
to go, yeah, and so I went to AA at the beginning of my sobriety, and just to see, connect with people, and it was, connecting with people that have the exact same addiction like myself with alcohol, and it was overall a great experience with everybody that was there. I talked to a lot of people. I learned from a lot of people. I did a lot of the self healing part of within myself. That when I went in, I was already at the step 7, yeah, out of the 12 steps, and without knowing, it was just natural. I was like, oh, I'm already there at the step 7, and there was a sponsor. They called him the grand sponsor here in Sacramento. He's very well known in every single location around here. And when I shared my story of what happened to me as a kid, it triggered him in a negative way. And he told me after a few weekends, and I would go once every week. When I shared my story the second time, he pulled me aside and he told me, "I don't want you to share your story anymore because it's going to hurt a lot more people than it's going to help." And that's when I knew, I was like, "Oh, it triggered something in him."
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's just one person's opinion.
Yes, and he was a grand sponsor, so he was pretty much
Big
the one that,
influence.
yes.
Head honcho.
So that was my sign that yeah, he really is. And when it triggered that in him, I instantly felt that he went through the same thing,
Hmm.
but he's not able to voice it.
Exactly.
And he was 30 something years sober at that point. And he
Mm.
says he struggles every day. He has to go every day to AA. And for me, I don't struggle with alcohol anymore. Of course, the thoughts come through, but I'm not gonna go through that dance anymore. I've already learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I'm in a place right now where I can probably handle a beer or two here and there, I'm not gonna test that.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Same.
And he struggles every day with it. So I had a feeling that he went through something very similar that what I went through,
Yeah.
but he wasn't able to confront it like I did. And
Right.
he pretty much asked me to pipe down and shut up. And that's when I stopped going.
Yeah.
There was no reason for
Understandable.
me to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
feel like the fact that he obviously your story triggered something in him, but it makes me wonder if he was like fully, being the head honcho and the top sponsor or whatever, like he should be working the program enough to the point where he should allow everybody to share their story, good or bad, and I
Right.
feel
Well,
like that's not your problem.
that's
Right.
where his trauma
And I
took
still
over.
have,
Still got
yeah,
the big book.
exactly. I still have the big book that I got from those meetings, and I carry with me every day. And I don't go to the meetings, but I kept the book because I know at some point I will meet somebody in a not so random way around me that I'm able to pass on this book,
That's good.
to share my story and pass on this book. Right. So, yeah.
Good.
Awesome. 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 I had a bad experience with AA myself, not by sharing a personal story, but I made a friend in there. A mom friend, same age as me, had a son, same age. And she just, I always smelled vodka on her, but she would always say it was a mouthwash. And the fuck, like, I know that's not true. Like, who are you? So, but
Yeah.
I was like, well, whatever. I was like 3 months sober, and then she invited me over, and I was already going through some stuff with my fiance, and I couldn't cope. I was in early sobriety. I was going to AA. I thought it was the only way. And because that's what you're told. And I went and I said, I'm having a bad day. She said, come over. I said, sure. And then she says, hey, when we go to get it, she shows me around the house. Then she brings me into the kitchen. She says, hey. And then she opens the cabinet and there's a whole bottle of vodka. And we just gave each other that look, that look. And I said, get the shot glasses out. Let's have fun.
Hmm.
I know that infamous look. It's like, should we?
We did. It was that look. We both were like, let's fucking do it. and we did, and I was about to be 4 months, but that turned into me going into beast mode, but that night was not easy, and the next day wasn't easy. The night my fiance had to basically resuscitate me because I had already lost so much weight. So it was a whole story. So it left a
Yeah.
bad taste in my mouth with AA, and I know that's not the case. I do want to go back. I went through a sobriety coach myself. That didn't work out. And now I've just been kind of doing, the podcast. I have this community, but I'm curious about AA just to kind of have that community in person again. I've talked about it. I'm not doing anything about it though. So I need to go really do that.
Yeah, I am one of those people where AA didn't work for me at first because I wasn't really retaining the information. I wasn't embracing it as much because I thought, oh, I wasn't very religious or about higher powers. So I walked in and I saw God mentioned on all the steps and the traditions and stuff. So I'm like, this isn't going to be for me. So I didn't pay attention. But then when I went to rehab and came out, for some reason, I figured I'd give it another chance because I was a little more clear headed after 45 days. And I just gave it a chance and realized you don't have to, I'm not saying I'm atheist or agnostic. I do believe. I didn't want it to be forced on me when it came to quitting drinking. So that was something
Yeah.
that I had to like open myself up to. And once I did, it became honestly all my good friends that I hang out with over here, they're in AA. Some of them are in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And I'm like, we all want the same thing. We just want sobriety. And
Yeah.
I don't push it on other people because I'd say half the people we interview and talk to, they say AA didn't work for them or they chose a different route. And I respect that. Like if whatever works for you, that's great. If you work your own program and you're still sober and you're happy,
Yeah.
that's what matters. I mean,
Just fucking be sober. Just do it.
yeah, just be sober. I
Exactly.
mean, it's not always good to raw dog it like Rachel
Like I
says,
did.
but yeah, it's not like to do it without changing yourself, because it's one thing to just quit drinking, but there's this book I have that said there's more to quitting drinking than quitting drinking because you really do have to change everything, your surroundings, your outlook on life, your perception of things. And it's like, once I did that, things got easier. Now I just continue to go to meetings because I'm still sober. So I'm like, why switch it up? Like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
need them every day, but I'm like, if I'm sober another day, I'll keep going, So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a good point. That's a good point you say about, restructuring your whole life because our whole identity was drinking.
Yes.
And we built our whole life around it. And I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I've had this dentist for the past 10 years, but the only reason why I got to the dentist was because it was next to a liquor store. So I would go to the dentist, once, twice a year and, get a day off of work, go into the dentist and then go grab all sorts of alcohol, but only because he's not the best dentist either. It's just that he was next to a liquor store. I could just walk there.
Yep.
So
I
I'm
got a
still trying to
cleaning drunk
restructure my
one.
life.
I got a cleaning drunk one. So
Oh,
Wow.
geez. I used to pre-funk for the dentist, I'll admit. They used to give me anxiety being stuck in a chair for that long.
Yeah.
Same as airplanes. If I know I can't move if I want to, I get really anxious. My heart starts beating fast. And they'd always say, your blood pressure's up. I don't know if we can work on you. So I would start drinking
Yeah.
beforehand and be like, all right, I'm chill. And I'd watch the little TV above me. But, nowadays it doesn't bother me because I've been sober long enough. But God, yeah, I would pre-funk for everything though. So that's not saying much. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But so like, what was your turning point? I'm sure Rachel wants to know this too. Like, what was that final like 24-hour period where you're like, holy shit, I need to quit? What was that like?
For me, it was when, my blood pressure would just skyrocket so high when I didn't have alcohol. And it was such a terrible feeling, sweats, this is the daily thing. And that's when I knew that I was dying. Little by little, I was dying. Uh, I had already made peace with my life at that point, knowing that, I can't control this. This is pretty much what my life is going to be like for the rest until, I pass away soon, because I really did make peace with myself, knowing that I was going to go away and just waste away drinking. Um, and as eerie as it sounds, I was okay with that because I tried everything to try to get off of alcohol. And something something happened to me one morning, after all this is during the flashbacks of my childhood, my pending divorce, right? With a looming divorce. Not at that point we were still together, but everything was falling apart for me. And I was so lost and I had no idea where to turn to. And all I remember was hearing a voice in my head to talk to the diocese of Sacramento here, which is the Catholic diocese. I was raised Catholic, but the pending childhood trauma that I have does revolve around church. It happened at a church. So I got a voice in my head. I remember this morning, and it told me to go talk to the diocese. I don't know why. I just did. I talked to a lady there who deals with traumatic events like this of possible sexual abuse at the hands of a clergy member, right? And when I talked to her, that's when everything started to make sense for me. And then the immense weight off my shoulders just talking to that lady at the diocese, everything just felt so relaxing after that point. But I definitely unloaded the burdens that I was carrying since I was a child. And I had no idea who to talk to there. I was just told to go talk to them. And it was just a voice in my head.
Wow.
And ever since then, I pay attention to that little voice, and it's guided me ever since. And I used to think I was crazy, but it's something that guides me to this day. My intuition is I rely on my intuition very heavy. And I do have an immense spiritual connection that I can't make sense of. All I know is that it's there to help me, and it has. So
Mhm.
I just go off of that. But that's really what just following my intuition, following that little voice in my head to keep going, to question this, question that, ask this person, pay attention to this, pay attention to that. And as crazy as it sounds, it's led me to exactly where I am at now. And that's that total peace.
That's great.
Good. That's
Wow.
awesome. And what is
Uh,
your I see that you're into kettlebell workouts.
yes.
Okay, so is that part like for me, routine is huge in my sobriety and my daily life. Like it's not just about sobriety anymore, it's just who I am. Is that part of like you? Like you work out, is that daily with the kettlebells? Like what is your daily life now sober?
It is a daily check-in with myself. I meditate with myself at all times. During my workouts, that's when I really tap into myself, and it's me and that little voice that guides me. I'm just going at it and just working out, and no other reason than it just makes me feel good. Right? I'm not out there trying to, deadlift 6,000 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
to be
just
healthy. I need to
for a
move my
mental state.
body.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, just to move
Yeah.
my body, and it's a daily thing. Whether it's actually lifting weights, I love my kettlebell routine, or just walking. That was
Yeah,
really the beginning of my fitness journey was walking. I
too.
Yeah.
was at my heaviest. I was 222. I was
Oh,
222 pounds at my
221
heaviest.
twins. 221,
There you go. Yeah, I was
I was
but I'm
222.
209 at
5'3".
one point, I remember.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
five
So I
three
think
and
we
I'm a
all
female.
I see
I'm at
some
yeah,
pictures of
we're
Rachel and I from the past. We're like, who are those people?
No,
Yeah, my
literally.
license. I just redid my license, and what a difference. And it
Yeah.
really, I looked so much older back then too. It was it's so wild, even though it was over 10 years ago.
I know, isn't that crazy? Like people like probably tell Rachel too, but like people say like I look younger than I did 6, 7 years ago when I was at my worst doing cocaine, drinking and stuff, and my eyes were just baggy and dark,
Yep.
and it was like, well, now I just I get my cardio in every day, some weightlifting, and don't drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sober glow is the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, not
Oh
until you
yeah.
get sober do you see it. I see it in other people. I'm very active on Instagram, and so I see other people as time progresses. Like, man, you're really glowing now. You got that sober glow.
I know. That's what I
So
like
true.
about like going into the meetings. I get to see people come in like day one and just see how
Yeah.
miserable they are. And I'm like, I was there at one point. And then you see them keep coming back for like, 90 days or something, and they collect their chip. And I'm just looking at the difference and the transformation. I'm like, it's so cool to see it. And
Yeah.
I see that online with some of the people I've met during the podcast and stuff. I've interviewed people that were just a couple days sober a couple of times, and now I did like check on them and kind of look at their pictures, and I'm like, whoa, they're like a whole new person already. It's like,
Yep.
it's so
Yeah.
cool to see, though. I mean, sober
Yeah, it is.
community is awesome.
Yes, it is. I couldn't
Yep.
be more grateful, to be honest.
Yeah, but routine is everything in
It is.
sobriety. Like, I'll admit, sometimes I fall off my routine a little bit because I used to be really OCD about my routine to the point where it probably wasn't even healthy when I was trying to just control everything.
Hmm.
Every now and again, like on weekends, I'll slip up and maybe not work out or do this or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, routine is so important, though, because we are people that are creatures of habit when it came to drinking. It's like we woke up, we needed that drink, or we were
Hmm.
going to go into a social situation, I needed that drink, and it's like,
Yeah.
now it's like, no, I'm going to work out this morning. I'll be in the right mindset, and then I can go into a social situation sober. So
Yeah. And it's a trial and error because we really are restructuring our lives to what it was to what it is now and piecing together our life piece by piece because we have to literally break ourselves down to itty bitty pieces that just pick out what we really, really feel is ourselves, right? And just put it together. And those routines really do help make sense of who we are and
Yeah.
how we're growing into it. I fell off of a routine, not by choice, but my gym closed, which is the closest gym to me, and I had to restructure my whole workouts to do it on my own.
yeah,
And yeah, so now just going through that motion, but I haven't stopped. It just looks a little different now.
Oh,
great.
yeah.
It's great.
And
So
I
what's
always,
like?
oh, sorry, Ryan. Sorry.
No, you go first. You go first.
I was just going to say that I treated myself, and I'm sure you guys could relate. Like, I treated myself bad for so long by using substances and eating bad and just treating myself bad, being around toxic environments, that now I don't want any of that. I don't want poison in my body. I want to treat myself right. I want to be around the right environments. Like, I just want the best for
Mm.
myself because I abused myself for so long. And that's what routine really boils down to, and the discipline and the consistency.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And poison also, we a lot of us ingest it through orally, right? Through alcohol. That was for me. But it's also the BS that's out there, all the news, all that crap that's going on out there. I have all those blocked on my Instagram. I've blocked every
Yeah,
single news source out there. I
all
don't
depressing.
It is, I only really, watch the news just when I want to go check the weather, right? That's it. And even they get that wrong.
I know. Can't
So
rely on that.
for sure, but it's also controlling that type of intake. All toxicity for me is just goes out the window. I could only control what my sphere of influence, which is around me, and that's it. So whether it's food, whatever, all that, I can control that. Everything else is out the window.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So like, what's besides like dealing with some of the traumas as a child and dealing with those now, and besides like your physical health and all that, what's some other rewarding things that have taken place in the last 4 years that you recognize have really been the biggest rewards?
Clarity for sure. I think that's any alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic is a clarity, right? So now I am very much present in my kid's life where I used to just exist, right? And now I am fully there with them and enjoying every moment with them. They're so young, 7 and 5. So I'm enjoying every bit and piece of time that I get with them, right? So yeah, that's really huge for me.
It's
Great.
awesome.
It's great. How about you, Rachel? What's your biggest rewards since you become sober? Since you just hit your 18-month, I'm curious.
You're curious. I don't like, but I feel like I
I know you've told me
brag.
before.
I feel like I'm bragging because so much happened in a
No,
year and a half. And then I say it like
that's
almost
a
It's
good
okay
every
to
thing.
brag.
episode. It's every episode. Okay, fine. Like, literally, okay. I have been on my job that I've been promoted at for, and everything. I'm growing. I'm on a podcast, a co-host. I lost almost 80 pounds. I got proposed to. I got a new car. I'm a more
Mm,
present mother. My relationships with family and friends that are meant to be in my life have gotten better, including my sister, somebody I never thought that would be. We're not the best of friends, but it's working out. What the fuck else am I missing? I feel like so much more happened. So much more beautiful, beautiful things have happened. I've even experienced serious grief 4 times in sobriety. That I just have to say, even though that wasn't beautiful and the best things to go through, and I have said this before, I was present. So I can't have imagined doing what I went through, like all the bad grief and deaths while in active addiction for sure. That would have not been a thing. I wouldn't have handled that well
Mhm.
at all. I don't even know. And I wouldn't have been there to support my loved ones. So
Yep.
those are some accomplishments, just a few.
I know. I like to ask you because you can never hear it enough, all the good things that have come from it. And then you got to think of all these good things that have happened. And it's just a reminder every day, even when we're having a rough day, as to why we will never go back to where we were, because I never want to be in that dark spot again. My
No.
Yeah.
biggest reward was definitely just not hating myself anymore. That was honestly the most simple thing that I
Yeah.
can say as my answer, but not like starting to love myself fixed so many different things around me. You know, I treated people better. I was more reliable. I was more confident, more just, the less I needed alcohol. So once I started to just like who I was for the first time ever, then a lot of things started correcting.
Yeah. Loving ourselves is number one because
And
if we
all
love
all we had to
ourselves, we
do,
love others.
yeah, and all we had to do is just give up alcohol and
Yeah,
drugs.
simple as that. And it
Simple
was,
as that, really. It's just
yeah,
the bare bones of it is really just releasing
yeah.
that addiction, and everything else just falls into place. And loving ourselves for sure. I had to love myself and make sense of myself in order for me to love others, right? And that was huge for me, and that's how I met my now wife, Whitney, and she's amazing, and she's an amazing soul, and I would have never crossed paths with her if I was still drinking.
Okay.
Right.
Is she sober as well, or is she just
Yeah, I mean, she drinks every once in a while, but she's not a drinker at all. But so she doesn't consider herself sober because it was never really a thing for her.
okay?
Socially, every once in a while she will, but I don't consider her a drinker at all. So she's always just been high on life.
Okay.
Good.
Cool.
Good.
So like besides being into, fitness and being in sounds like a really good healthy marriage with the right person, what is your life like now? What are you doing as far as staying sober, spreading the word? What's your life like?
I'm very much into, I'm very in a spiritual sense. Spiritually, I that's really what got me through sobriety was trying to find and figure out the world around me, break down what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And I dove into Christianity for a bit, made sense of that, and kind of just bounce around all over the spectrum. And but I do consider myself a very highly spiritual person, and the people that I've met along the way, whether through yoga, working out, breath work, I've met a lot of fantastic people that helped me along the way, and a lot of beautiful people that helped me along the way through my healing journey. And making sense of astrology, making sense of all sorts of spiritual aspects,
Oh,
and
Did it
that
all
that's
s-
really.
did it all start? Most of your spirituality start when you had that kind of voice in your head telling you to go to the diocese and kind of deal with some of these things? Or is that when it really started?
That's when it was in my face. That's when it was like, boom.
Cool. Awesome. And
The
since
signs are there. That's when I started to pay attention to the signs. The signs were always there, always there. And it could be as simple as a butterfly right in front of my face. And it's like, oh, that's a nice butterfly to just some random person. For me, I think there's something more to this. And when you start to break down what that is and what it means and why it's happening in that day, in that moment, you start to break things down for what it is. It's like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why this is. So
yeah.
you connecting the dots through the environment. I mean, I connect everything back to a very spiritual lens, and that's really what makes sense to me. And it's guided me along the way. And I met a lot of people that have gone through exactly the same things, and I'm able to help them, guide them, and they're able to guide me as well at the same time. And it's not something that I actively push. It just happens.
Yeah.
when the message is there for me to convey to somebody, to help somebody. I'm always there for that. And that happened between you and I, Rachel.
Shall we share? So I
Yeah, go
reached
Yeah.
ahead.
out, I'll start. So I am, I noticed your page. I noticed that you're just different. I wanted to interview you. And then I reach out
Mhm.
because I'm looking for people to interview, right? And then now you tell your part.
And yeah, you noticed my page, and usually when people come up to me or talk to me, I'm not necessarily the most inviting person. Just I'm not very out there. I'm not super in your face. I'm very much an introvert. But when somebody does reach out to me like you did, that's when I knew instantly is like this has more to do, it has more depth than just an interview. And during that moment when I met you, is that there's something more to this. And I told you then, like there was something or somebody guiding me towards you, and for you to go reach out to me. And that's when we spoke about your cats, right?
Yeah. And you learned about a Boo, my black cat.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
and from what I understand, you had two cats that had passed, right? And when we had those conversations through messages, voice messages, that morning after we spoke about that, I sent you a picture of the plant, a house plant that I have at my house,
Yeah.
and I was knocked over.
Yep.
And when it happened, it was so abnormal because that never happens. I was like, oh, that's weird. But me looking through a spiritual lens, like I got the instant message, a little voice in my head to ask you.
Yep.
Was one of your cats, did they like to mess around with houseplants or knock over houseplants? And you responded right away.
Wow.
It was a
Yeah,
Boo.
It's a trip. That is a trip. Yeah.
it is a
Yeah, Boo.
trip.
I couldn't
And
keep flowers
for
on the table.
that's so funny because when I woke up that morning after we had that conversation, that plant was down, and then I looked over at my son's water bottle. He has a sticker of a cat on his water bottle, and it was an instant. Oh, this message is for you. And that's when I took a picture. I took those pictures prior to and I asked you first before I sent you those pictures because I wanted to
Yep.
confirm that if your kitty has if that was something that Abu did, or you mentioned it was Abu.
Yep.
So I make those connections, and
Yeah.
I get a lot of messages through. I get a lot of messages just through my environment and things that happen around me, and that's when I get the little voice in my head telling me or asking me, ask her this, ask her that, or
Yeah.
depending on the person.
Yeah.
I don't make the rules. It just is. I just reach out.
And that's the beautiful thing about like this sober recovery community that we have online. I was never a huge fan of social media until this podcast. And then I'm realizing like there's been times where I've had been having a day where I'm struggling, and all of a sudden, like I would have just maybe followed some random person just because I like their page or something, but not thinking much of it. And all of a sudden, that person will just come in and be like, "Hey, I just wanted to check and see how you're doing, like the
Yeah.
podcast, but how are you really doing today?" And I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
"What the hell? How'd you know?" And I was like, "What made you ask that?" Because I needed to hear that today. And then he's
Yeah.
just like, "I just had a feeling." And this person kind of reminds me a little of you, actually. So he
Yes.
has his own podcast and stuff, and it was like, all right, this, even if you're not spiritual, you gotta kind of pay attention to the signs.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And
And
like I
like,
said, I don't make the rules. It just happens, and I approach people when I feel that the message needs to be conveyed. And that similar situation, I get a lot of people that pop up randomly and not so randomly in my head, and then I do reach out, and always it's always there's always a connection there made.
yeah, I mean, just because of like, whether we've been sober for a week or 4 months or regardless of what's going on in our life, it is nice to be checked on. It is, it's nice when somebody asks you how you're doing, because just because
Yeah.
we're sober doesn't mean life isn't still happening. I still have rough
Yeah.
days. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. We all do for sure. Yeah.
and the
Yep.
other day I was talking to my buddy about the number 3. It's my lucky number. And I know that the number 3 has religious connotations about like angels and everything, and
Mhm.
333 and stuff. And I do 333 on like a lot of my usernames. towards stuff like that, and it's always been a thing. And we were talking about it, and he said that, like, whenever he sees the 333 time, it helps him feel connected to somebody he had lost and stuff. And I always say, like, when I see 333, I make a wish, or I pray for my sister or something like that. And then, like, that the next day, all of a sudden he said that his email said it had 333 in its inbox, and then he saw a cafe that said cafe number 333, and I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
it can't be a coincidence all the time.
Right. Yeah. There's something to it. And my wife and I, we have a thing now where, whenever we see the clock and it's 11:11 or
That's my
2:22,
number.
Yeah.
3:33, but
Yeah.
we text each other. We text each other hearts, little hearts, right?
Yeah,
So
that's so cool.
yeah,
That's
that's how
cute.
we always connect. And yeah, I'm just walking, and I don't pay attention to the time, and it's 2:22, and I get my a little heart text, and it's her. But we have
That's
we have a
great.
little thing going on with all that. Yeah.
That's cute. That was good. It's good.
No,
Yeah.
So it
my
sounds like
number,
you got
11. 11 everywhere for me. And that's
Yeah.
my sobriety.
Yes.
mine is 3. I got it tatted on me in like 10 different places. It's like,
Yeah.
it started off though as my favorite number because my favorite athlete as a kid was Allen Iverson, and he was number
Oh yeah.
3. But then it just turned into a thing where threes always had some significance with me. So
Yeah.
it even carries into my OCD, like 3 sprays of cologne. It's embarrassing to admit,
No,
but
it's a
yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's
And
a
Allen
thing.
Iverson,
But
I think he's sober. Did you
he
see
is
that?
sober. I honestly was supposed to meet him 2 weeks ago, but I
Mm,
had pneumonia. I was supposed to
mm.
meet him, and like I was gonna ask him. It was far fetched, but I was gonna ask him to like do an interview with me since I was getting a picture with him and everything.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
had to cancel because of the pneumonia, so I couldn't go. So I was gonna be bold though and be like, "I have a podcast. I know you're sober."
Yeah.
That would be my dream to interview him. But yeah.
Yeah. I just saw that not that long ago. He did, I think, 6 months sober or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
which is awesome.
yeah, this is awesome. There's so many people getting sober now, and it's like
Yeah.
becoming popular. And the fact that celebrities and famous people are becoming sober, I hope that it keeps inspiring people. But
Yeah.
we're doing what we can with this podcast to
Yeah.
really encourage sobriety, because it's a difficult thing, but it's
Very.
when you see so many people doing it, you see that it's possible. So.
Yes.
I mean, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, you can be right off the streets, and you could have a problem with alcohol. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, and a lot of the news out there, they do show that alcohol, the way it's going, it's down into a permanent decline. And
Yeah.
I see it because there's a ton of people, my page is full, and I keep adding people constantly that
Yeah.
are sober,
Same.
day 1 sober, 3 weeks sober, and it's wild, and it is not easy, right? And I never push sobriety on anybody. You need to go get sober. No, I don't, because I know how difficult it is.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's literally
You got to
telling
do it when you want to
somebody,
do it.
yeah, it's literally telling somebody, get rid of that medicine, because now you have to confront all the issues that you've ever, that you've been hiding, and they pop up.
Yeah.
And you don't do that, because that is so dangerous for somebody to go
Oh,
through.
yeah. Like, let's
Exactly.
force you to go heal your childhood trauma that you had with your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
no.
different.
No,
People
you
are
gotta
only
be
going to do
ready.
it when they're ready. And
You gotta be ready.
when people tried to convince me to stay sober, I tried to do it so reluctantly, so pissed off, so much animosity towards those people. So I was never able to stay sober. But the day that I threw in the towel, I had a spiritual awakening in the hospital, where I had this nun come up to my bed, a nun that recognized me 30 years later from when I went to a Catholic school as a kid. And she recognized my name and came up to me and started praying for me. And, I had been against Catholicism and religion, not against it, but just didn't really, not a churchgoer or anything. But when she came and prayed for me every day I was in the hospital from alcohol withdrawal and stuff, I was like, finally, like, you know what? This is a sign, like, this is a sign that I haven't done it right before, but I really want it this time. I don't want to be here ever again for this reason. So then I was like, I got on the phone with the shakes and started, figuring out what rehab I could get into. And I haven't touched a drink since. And
Mm,
this is those moments that you just kind of say, I throw in the towel. I can't do
it's
this
awesome.
anymore. Sick and
And
tired of being sick and tired, as this.
Oh, yeah.
and that was not a coincidence. That nun was a guardian angel.
For sure.
Exactly. And she prayed for me every day. And I was just like, after 30 years, you recognize my name on a computer. And she usually is there to read the rights to people. She's checking who she should go, basically check out who's going to pass away, and she saw my name on a different list. I don't think I was about to die, but I was pretty close to it. But she just recognized it. And she's like, I'm going to go visit him and see if he remembers me. And I surprisingly did remember her. It was Sister
Wow.
Margie. And I have her cell phone number now to this day. And
Yeah.
Wow.
that was my turning point, though, where she prayed for me, and then it changed my whole mindset, because I was telling myself, okay, I'm not going to drink anymore, and when I get out of the hospital. But no, this time I was like, I'm going to do something different. I obviously can't do it on my own, so I'm going to take the next step, and that was my sign. So,
Hey,
and I
shout out
never
to
forget it.
Sister Margie. Shout out to
Sister
Sister
Margie, if
Margie.
you're listening. But so, what advice would you give to anybody listening right now that's sober curious or new in sobriety, or just wants more inspiration to remain sober?
Patience, because you are literally going to flip your life upside down when you remove alcohol from your life. It's going to be a completely new world to you. So you have to be extremely patient with it. So,
Yeah.
and that's the best advice that I can give anybody going through or even thinking about sobriety, is just to be patient, because you're turning
Big,
into a
straightforward
new
advice.
person. Yeah, and you're turning into a new person that you don't even know
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it gets
Yep.
better, so much better.
Yep. Like a 16-year-old getting their driver's license is what I say. Like the
Mhm.
whole world is just new, and you got so much opportunity. It was like, I
Very
feel like I
much
was
so.
born. I feel like I was born a year and 15 days ago. Like when I got
I
sober.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. Like, that's honestly perfect advice. Patience is something I haven't preached enough of, and it
Mhm.
does require patience. And after 90 days, I was frustrated. I was like, I feel good, but I don't feel as good as I thought I would feel. But literally every month that goes by, you just start to love life a little bit more.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Every day for me, every day.
Rachel, do you have any other questions before we close out?
Not questions, just I love to hear your story and appreciate you sharing open details about such personal
Yeah.
things. And I thank you
For
for
sure.
coming into my life to talk to me about Abu, because I needed that closure. I really did.
Yeah.
Brian, you knew that. You know how bad I needed that closure. And to me, that was closure. And you helped
Great.
me
I
get
had
my
no idea
babies
about the
now.
background between you two.
You helped me get my babies now, and I wasn't too sure, and I spoke to you on the phone that day, and I said, I have a question. What do you think about these 2 kittens? I got more in depth, and I talked about Jasmine just passing away, and he told me, he started talking numbers, and he just said, boom, like, yes, get them. And they have been so far such a cute little blessing. They're 6-week-old little hyper kittens.
Wow.
And my son loves them, my dog loves them, my fiance loves them, and they're adorable. They bring me happiness
I love
again.
it.
So thank you for being on the show and coming to me the way you did, because I came to you, but then you
Of
came to me.
course.
So
Yeah, no, that's cool. I
Definitely.
didn't know the background story that you guys had connected on that level regarding Abu and everything. So that's
yeah,
really cool. I mean, that just shows the power of this community. That we're
yeah,
there for each other, and that we're all connected, and it's amazing. So never feel
For
alone
sure.
in this. So
mhm.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great to meet you both. Yeah,
you as well,
it's
Art.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.